Here's how to make steak fried rice.
We're gonna take our rice here. Should use white rice. I'm using 2 cups of it, but of course, if you want to make less of this dish or more of it, you can change the amount of rice you're using. You should always use double the cups of water that you do rice, though. Otherwise, it just won't make right.
Please be nice. Wash your rice. The reason why we do this is because unwashed rice still has those starches stuck to the grains, and it can often become sticky and mushy, and nobody wants to eat that. It's genuinely disgusting. So please be nice. Wash your rice. Many people don't know how to wash rice, and it's a very important skill to know how to do. So basically, all you do, fill it up, put some water in your sink, get your hand, move it around in a circular motion with a claw shape like this. Just wash it. If you feel like you want to, you can swirl it around like this after going around with your hand. But typically, you don't need to do that for too long, maybe 15, 30 seconds. And you should get this mucky looking water. Pour that out, making sure not to get any of the rice to fall out. And then you repeat that step until the water runs clean. Typically should take 4 or 5 times.
Now we'll go into our rice cooker.
We're going to put our rice in the fridge overnight to get stale. The reason why we do this is because stale rice achieves a nice toast when we put it on the flat top as opposed to fresh rice, which is often soft and doesn't achieve that toast. It also prevents clumping and from the rice from being too mushy. It's the next day now, and it's time for the fun part. Steak time! Now that we have our steak, let's get our spices. So obviously to season, we're going to use some salt, but not too much because soy sauce, the foundation of fried rice, is a pretty salty sauce. Next, to balance out that salt, we got some brown sugar. It adds a nice sweetness and a nice rich taste as well. We have our black pepper that add a little pepperiness to it. Always got to have salt and pepper. We got paprika, add a little bit of heat to balance out that sweetness. And then for some aromatics, we got onion powder and garlic powder. We're using all of these seasonings to add a nice balanced flavor to our steak and to the fried rice in general. If you do not have all of these, you can just season with salt and pepper, still keeping that low amount of salt, but it is highly recommended that you use at least 1 sweet and 1 spicy seasoning. As mentioned before, we're using a little bit of salt. Make sure you season up high so that it's nice and even and not super concentrated in one area. Same with all of the other spices. Their black pepper. Make sure you use a decent amount of it. And our paprika, not too much. Nice little dusting. Same thing goes for the onion powder. And the garlic powder. Everybody loves a nice salty sweet combo, so I like to be pretty generous with our brown sugar. Put it all over our meat. I'd say that's a good amount. I'll add a little bit more. And then what we're going to do is we're going to rub it into the steak so that it helps to push some of these seasonings into the meat so that they're not just sitting on top of it. And we're obviously going to repeat this on each side. And once we're done, we are going to let it sit for 2 hours. The reason we do this is so that all of these nice flavors can penetrate inside of the meat so that it's not just the crust that tastes good, and it's the entire steak. In every bite, you have a nice flavor. That time's over. Time to cut. So taking a look here, we got all of our steak. Got a nice color on it from these seasonings that are now fully incorporated into the meat. As you can see on the sides here, it's no longer super red, and it now has a nice color because of all that flavor in it. What we're going to do is we're just going to take our pieces. I like to cut 2 or 3 at a time. We're just going to cut it into roughly equal-sized cubes about, just so that we don't have massive pieces in our rice. Make sure they're not super big, like this one is pretty big. If it's ginormous, just cut it in half, just so that they're all roughly equal. Before we begin cooking, there are 2 more ingredients that we will be adding to this dish, just to add a little extra flavor, and so it's not just steak and rice. We got frozen vegetables. You can really use any mix that you can find, just as long as they're frozen. I like to use peas, carrots, corn, and green beans. And then we'll also just be scrambling a few eggs to mix into the rice. For this recipe, I'm going to be using a Blackstone griddle. If you don't own one of these, it's perfectly okay to just make this in a pan on your stove. But the really important part is to break this up into temperature zones. So yes, if you are using pans, you should use a few of them, not just one. But over here, in this zone, we're going to have a low temperature zone for our vegetables. They don't need any special cooking. They just need to be heated up so they're not frozen anymore. Over here towards the middle, I like to position it more towards the top and the vegetables at the bottom, just so there's no cross-contamination. We're going to be making our eggs over here. Should be medium heat. Eggs cook relatively quickly, so we don't want them to be overcooked and burnt. Over in the middle, keep this free because our rice is going to be put right along this middle. So you should keep it hot, so just put that on medium heat. Right here on this side, going to take up this entire side. We're going to be having our steak here. Should be relatively high temperature, not all the way up, just maybe right here, medium high, just so we don't burn it. But we want it to cook relatively quickly so we can get some nice caramelization on it as well. Make sure that when you're cooking this, you use a good bit of oil. These squirt bottles that I'm using are very, very, very useful. Before I put anything down, I like to spread it around a bit, and then just take a nice handful, plop it down. Hear a nice little sizzle. That's how you know the oil and the flat top are hot enough to cook. Make sure you let the flat top get up to temperature before you put anything down, because that is very, very important. Otherwise, it's going to lead to an uneven cook that's going to take much, much longer than it should. Going to even this out a little bit. Make sure that every piece of steak is touching the surface. You do not want pieces of steak on top of each other, because the ones that are on top aren't going to cook as well as the ones that are touching the flat top. So we want them all even. Bring them all somewhat close together so they're easy to manage. And yeah, let that sit there. Should take around 4 to 5 minutes. Over in this bottom corner here, I'm going to put down some more oil so that we can dump our veggies down. It's important to be watching your steak while cooking and moving it around quite a bit so that it doesn't really stick to the griddle and so that it doesn't burn. You should have a nice dark color like on this piece right here if you can see it, but it shouldn't be blackened. That dark color is going to be thanks to caramelization, and you want the brown sugar to caramelize, but you don't want it to burn. Burnt sugar doesn't taste good at all. If you're feeding this to other people, they're not going to like it, and if it's just you eating it, you're not going to like it. As you can see, this steak starting to cook a little bit. We're going to put down some more oil right here. Not too much. I put quite a bit on accident. And then we're going to put down our eggs. Make sure that in the process of these eggs cooking, you're breaking them up a lot so that we don't get huge masses of eggs. We're also turning them so that they can cook evenly. As these steaks are nearing completion, let's move the dials at the bottom to a nice medium so that they are all even for us to put down our rice pretty soon. Everything is nearing the end of its cooking process, so we're just going to move everything out of the middle into its little sides and corners. Should have our eggs up here in the top right corner. Vegetables staying in the bottom right corner. They haven't moved at all. We can get rid of this second spatula, and we're going to push our steak over to the bottom left corner. We're going to put a little bit of oil down in the middle, just so our rice doesn't stick. And now it's time to add it in. As our rice begins to toast, we're going to break it up so that it's not these huge masses that it became stale and stuck together in. And then we're also going to start adding in our other ingredients, like our steak and our eggs and our vegetables. To fully incorporate these, we're going to want to fold the rice into itself often and really scoop these ingredients into the middle so it gets all incorporated and it's not just a bunch of ingredients smushed together in the same place. Once everything is fully incorporated into our rice, we're going to pour our soy sauce in there. Use a generous amount, a lot more than you think you need, but make sure that you don't use too much. We're going to spread everything around so the soy sauce gets onto each and everything in this rice. We don't want one thing untouched, and we want to minimize as much whiteness as we can. We want all of this rice to be this nice brown color instead of the white that it was before. Once we've achieved this nice brown throughout, you can see there's a couple white spots that will happen. You don't want to over soy this just so that you can get everything brown. It's not all about the color, it is also about the taste, but a lot of it is the color. We have a few white spots, not many. Overall, pretty good. We have this nice toast on it too, and I would say that this is a pretty good steak fried rice right here. Let this sit for a few minutes just to cool down before you serve it, but make sure that you move it around a little bit just so that it doesn't stick to your griddle. Right now we are waiting for our rice right here to cool down a little bit and just sit there and relax. And I just wanted to take the time to say that this is a really, really easy recipe. Don't be scared by any of it. Sometimes, at least for me anyway, when I was starting to make fried rice for the first time, I thought it was pretty scary, but it's relatively simple. I've only made it on this Blackstone about 3 times. Most of the times I've been making it indoors on the stove in a pan. But I would say definitely, if you have the money, invest in a Blackstone. It's great, not only for fried rice, but also for things like smash burgers or anything else really. Even just a steak, it is amazing. 10 out of 10 thing. I love this thing. Blackstone, if you ever want to sponsor me in the future, I would be happy to accept that sponsorship. It's funny because when I was recording this, like literally 5 minutes ago, my phone overheated. So I hope that this video is like actually good, because I don't know if the overheating affects the camera or anything like that. Never had my phone overheat before. I don't know. But I definitely need to figure out a better setup, maybe even invest in a camera person for a lot of this stuff, because I've just been using a little ring light that I got from a birthday in there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a really, really tasty recipe. If you give this to anybody, they're probably going to love it. I am an athlete. I play football. I'm an offensive lineman, clearly. And I make this for my meal preps during the summer because it's tasty and it's also not that bad for you. I mean, it's not the greatest for you, but if you're on a bulk, especially if it doesn't really matter if it's dirty or clean like me as an offensive lineman, it's great. You get a lot of protein in your steak, a lot of protein in your eggs, a lot of fat with your rice and your oil. No, sorry, rice is a carb. A lot of fat in your oil and some from your steak, but typically you should use stir-fry steak, which is pretty lean. Great nutrients from your vegetables, a lot of carbs from your rice, and overall it's actually very, very good for bulking. It's very, very high calorie. It's not the greatest for you, but it's actually not that bad. But overall, it's a great recipe. I highly recommend you make it. Even if you were just watching this for entertainment, you should make it. And that's pretty much it. Please subscribe. Please like. Go follow my Instagram and my TikTok if you like shorter form content. I also posted this on YouTube Shorts, so you can watch that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. See y'all in the next video. We got a great series coming up. I think y'all are going to like it.